Professor Kethvala adjusted her bioscanner nervously as she prepared for the day's xenobiology lecture. Teaching at the Galactic University's prestigious Death World Studies program had seemed like an honor when she'd accepted the position. Now, 3 months into studying Terra, she wondered if her sanity would survive the semester. The lecture hall buzzed with nervous chittering as students from 12 different species settled into their seats. Word had spread about today's topic, and attendance was unusually high. Morbid curiosity, Kethvala suspected. Today, she began, her translator rendering her clicks into universal standard. We examine Terra's microscopic life forms. A collective shudder rippled through the audience. Zephyrian exchange student Quill9 raised a tentacle. Professor, surely nothing that small could pose a significant threat? Kethvala's mandibles clicked in what humans would recognize as dark amusement. Let me introduce you to Clostridium botulinum. The holographic display materialized above her desk. A seemingly innocuous rod-shaped organism, magnified millions of times. To the alien students, it looked almost boring. This microorganism, Kethvala continued, produces the most potent biological toxin known to science. A single gram could theoretically kill 10 million sentient beings. The Vraxian student delegation, known throughout the galaxy for their robust constitutions, began making urgent notes. Their homeworld's most dangerous predator required physical contact to kill. This thing was invisible. But Professor, interrupted Yilthara, a crystalline nexary whose species had evolved in sterile cave systems, surely the humans have eliminated such threats through technology? The professor's laugh was entirely too cheerful. Oh, my dear student, you misunderstand. Humans intentionally cultivate this organism. They use it for something they call Botox, injecting the toxin into their faces for cosmetic purposes. Horrified gasps echoed through the chamber. The concept of voluntarily introducing lethal toxins for vanity was beyond comprehension for species that had evolved in safe, regulated environments. Moving on, Kethvala said, switching to a new hologram. Let me present Bacillus anthracis. This time, the organism appeared as clusters of blue-stained rods. Again, deceptively simple in appearance. Anthrax spores can survive in soil for decades, waiting for a host. Once inhaled, they can kill within days. The humans' ancestors faced this threat so commonly they developed an entire profession, medicine, largely to combat such invisible enemies. Kextar, a Malari student whose slug-like ancestors had never faced microbial threats, raised his eye stalk. How do humans even survive on their world? Ah, Kethvala's eyes gleamed. That brings us to the most terrifying part. They don't just survive, they've weaponized their own immune systems. The next hologram showed a complex network of cellular structures engaged in microscopic warfare. Human immune systems are essentially military installations at the cellular level. They maintain standing armies of specialized warriors, intelligence networks that remember every threat for decades, and response systems that can mobilize within hours. They're so aggressive that sometimes they attack the human's own bodies, what they call autoimmune diseases. A Kalari medical student fainted, his delicate nervous system overwhelmed by the implications. But wait, Kethvala continued with academic enthusiasm. There's more. Observe Plasmodium falciparum. The parasite appeared on screen. A shape-shifting organism that looked like something from a nightmare. This microscopic parasite kills over 500,000 humans annually, yet humans continue to live in regions where it thrives. They've developed partial genetic resistance that also protects against other diseases, trading one deadly threat for protection against another. The students sat in stunned silence, trying to process the concept of evolutionary compromise with death itself. Velnara, a peaceful Aquarian whose species had never encountered parasites, whispered, "How do they function knowing invisible death surrounds them constantly?" That, Kethvala said, is perhaps the most remarkable aspect. They largely ignore it. Human children play in dirt teeming with potential killers. They share food, exchange bodily fluids for recreation, and many actively seek out environments where exposure to dangerous microorganisms is inevitable. She switched to video footage of human activities, children making mud pies, adults kissing, groups sharing meals from common plates. They've developed cultural practices that actually increase their exposure to microbial threats, building immunity through controlled exposure. They call it letting kids be kids or building immune systems naturally. The exchange student from sterile Homeworld Prime began hyperventilating at the sight of human children deliberately eating dirt. "Professor," Quill 9 asked weakly, "what about their spacecraft? Surely they sterilized those?" Kethvala's mandibles clicked again. Human vessels carry entire ecosystems of microorganisms. They actually become distressed when separated from their microbial symbionts for too long. They require what they call probiotics, intentionally consuming beneficial bacteria to maintain health. The final hologram showed the human gut microbiome, trillions of organisms living in symbiosis with their host. A single human carries more microbial cells than human cells in their body. They are, quite literally, walking colonies of microscopic life forms, many of which would be lethal to other species. As the lecture concluded, students filed out in various states of shock, awe, and existential crisis. Several required counseling. The Nexary delegation immediately petitioned for enhanced environmental suits before any future human contact. Professor Kethvala gathered her materials, reflecting on the day's lesson. Tomorrow's topic was Earth's venomous invertebrates. Why humans keep them as pets. She suspected attendance would be lower. In the back of the hall, a lone human exchange student, the first ever admitted to the Death World Studies program, packed up her notes with amusement. Sarah Martinez had initially been confused why her presence required a hazmat containment field, but the semester was proving educational in ways she'd never expected. She made a mental note to mention the lecture to her friends back home. They'd find it hilarious that aliens were terrified of E. coli while humans worried more about their morning coffee running out. After all, priorities were important.